Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining today's stream. It is 24th of March, 12 p.m. Moscow time, and as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments, and hopefully you will find a news segment informative and useful. Before I go through some news, let me remind you that after live stream, my videos full show basically will be unlisted on YouTube and Rumble, and only can be accessed through original links that I will publish on my Patreon and the Boosty pages. And in case you like my work and want to support, well, I will drop now a Patreon link in the chat on YouTube and Rumble, and we'll be grateful if you will consider to join our communities either on a Patreon or Boosty, by the way. That will be great, a deal of help, of course. Last week we had 3 new members on Patreon, 1 new member on Boosty. Maybe this week we can do a little better, right? And of course, many thanks to everybody who supported and continues to support and keeps me in this field of news and political commentary. I see your comments, your greetings. Greetings to you all, dear friends. Thank you all for your time and attention and support. And as I have said many times before, if there is any super chat on Rumble during the stream or through other support platforms, any question or the comment that you want to be highlighted, either through PayPal or Boosty, I will, of course, pay attention to this and try my best to be informative while responding. Okay, that's being said, let's go through some news now. This is the first live stream. Later on today at 9 p.m. Moscow time, maybe I will launch second live stream with all the additional updates that will become available during the day, as I did yesterday, by the way. And if you want to take a look at my yesterday's update, as I said, original links are on my Patreon and Boosty. And so, okay, let's start today's program. And first of all, I will share with you a latest update on the work of Russian air defense systems, as I do practically always. Past night, according to the Defense Ministry of the Russian Federation, air defenses intercepted 55 drones that were launched by Kiev regime with assistance of NATO. Drones were intercepted over the Kursk, Belgorod, Bryansk, Kaluga, Tula, Lipetsk regions, also over the Republic of Crimea, Moscow region, and over the waters of the Black Sea. One might argue relatively low number of drones that were intercepted past night, or number of drones that were launched by Kiev regime. Yes, compared to other nights, it is relatively a low number, but most likely during the day there will be dozens and dozens of more drones that NATO and Kiev regime will launch to strike deep into Russia, as they do almost on regular basis nowadays. Yesterday, TASS news agency shared information, for example, about stats on day before, and it was more than 500 drones in 24 hours that Russian air defenses intercepted. More than 500 drones, among which 60 drones were intercepted over the Leningrad region. And dear friends, I spoke about it many times. Whenever there are reports that drones being intercepted over the Leningrad region, my instinct is that to believe that drones in that case are launched from NATO member states, either Estonia or Latvia, maybe Finland. I don't believe even for a second that Russian air defense systems failed to intercept not just 1 or 2, but 60, more than 60 drones in, let's say, Bryansk region, for example, which those drones have to pass to reach Leningrad region if they are launched from Kiev-controlled territory, or Smolensk region, by the way, or Novgorod, Pskov region, for example, or Novgorod region, not happening, impossible. One drone by chance might bypass all these Russian regions, right, to reach Leningrad region, but 60 plus drones, not happening, not possible. And those drones came from somewhere, isn't it? And the only logical explanation is in the Baltic Sea, where possibly the regime under the protection of NATO might use some vessel to launch those drones, or those drones should be launched from territory of NATO member states. I think Russian leadership is preparing answer for this escalation, and soon we might find out what this answer is going to be. In any way, something has to be done, because you all have noticed the difference that lately number of drones that Kyiv regime is launching is in many cases exceeding number of drones that Russia is launching, for example, to strike deep into Kyiv controlled territory on military logistical infrastructure. And this is clearly indicated that NATO countries that are providing Kyiv regime with the drones are managing to catch up in a drone production with the Russian Federation, and probably will further accelerate this process. And that means that at some point, if nothing is done about it, at some point, Russian air defense systems, no matter how good they are, and they are best in the world, by the way, but nevertheless, if number of these launches continue to increase, at some point, Russian air defenses might be overwhelmed, actually. And this is definitely a topic that cannot be and will not be ignored by Moscow, quite sure about it. But as of now, every now and then, based on statistics that I see in Russia segment of internet, well, it is clear that Kyiv regime and NATO are able to launch more drones that Russia does. And unfortunately, not all drones are intercepted. Some of them are managing to bypass air defenses and struck different areas, industrial areas, sometimes residential areas, civilian areas, other times. And I'm sharing almost on a weekly basis statistics about casualties among Russian civilians on a weekly basis. And today we have an update on that. TASS News Agency reported, based on statements of Radion Miroshnik, high-ranking Russian diplomat, whose task, as far as I can tell, is to be focused on crimes that are committed by Kyiv regime against Russian civilians, and he always shares information about it. And he gave the TASS information that past week 14 Russian civilians were killed as a result of terrorist activity of Kyiv regime, including these long-range drone attacks that are conducted with assistance of NATO, and 130 people more than 130 people were wounded. Let me give you a quote from his statement. In the past week, 133 civilians were affected by the Ukrainian armed forces attacks. Yet again, Russian officials, Russian media continues to use this terminology that it's a Ukrainian armed forces, while in reality we all understand and we all know that it's NATO attacks on Russian Federation. First and foremost, they are using Kyiv regime as a shield, right? As a proxy and a shield to maintain plausible deniability. That's all basically. Drones themselves, mostly flight path, targeting data, satellite navigation, everything is provided by NATO. So how these attacks are Kyiv regime's attacks? Can anybody explain to me? Or just Kyiv regime's attacks? It's a NATO attacks on Russian Federation, and it is unfortunate that for whatever reason, maybe justified reasons, I don't know, but Russian media, Russian MSM, at least, and the Russian high-ranking officials still are using this terminology that it's a Kyiv regime's attacks. But anyways, it is what it is. So in the past week, 133 civilians were affected by Ukrainian armed forces attacks, in which 119 people, including 10 minors, were injured, and 14 people were killed. The highest number of casualties were reported in Belgorod, Kherson, Zaporozhye, and Bryansk regions. Civil sites and civilians in these regions came under attacks by drones, rockets, and artillery by Kyiv's armed formations. Russian Foreign Ministry's ambassador at large for crimes of the Kiev regime, Rodion Miroshnik, told the TASS news agency. And unfortunately, we have to acknowledge that as number of drones that NATO and Kiev regime are launching to strike deep into Russia is increasing and increasing rapidly, I'm afraid the number of casualties among Russian civilians will also continue to increase. And as I said, we might approach point when even best in the world Russian air defense forces will be overwhelmed. Hopefully this will not happen, but risk is there. Risk is there, and to avoid further dire consequences, I think it is long overdue to take some actions to minimize this terrorist activity of the NATO countries and their proxy regime against Russian civilians, Russian citizens, Russian Federation. If process is not stopped, then soon probably we will face the reality when about 800,000 drones are launched on daily basis against the Russian Federation, and this is definitely something that cannot be ignored. As at this point, I think situation is so serious that I would not be surprised at all. For example, if this year there will be no victory parade in Moscow. Would not be surprised. There are no reports about it, nothing, right? But while analyzing the situation and noticing significant increase in this long-range strikes, attempts at least, by NATO and Kiev regime, well, one of their consequences, alongside increased casualty numbers, increased damage to civilian infrastructure, to industrial infrastructure. One of the consequences can be that, well, this year, maybe we will have no victory parade on 9th of May. I don't know. We will find out, but yeah, something definitely has to be done about this. And I mentioned, dear friends, that Leningrad region was targeted night before yesterday, basically. 60 drones were intercepted in the region by air defenses, but looks like not all drones were down. And right now on your screen, you can see a satellite imagery of one of the energy facilities in the Leningrad region that was struck with those drones. On this picture, clearly you can see at least these 4 massive tanks, fuel reservoirs, are on fire. Details about damage to this facility, detailed information has not been published, but yet again, that's one of the consequences, by the way, one of the consequences of this dramatic, I will say, increase in long-range attacks on Russian Federation. Something clearly has to be done about it, for sure, and hopefully will be done soon. Also, I want to share with you information that Russian rocket put on orbit, low orbit of Earth, first, looks like first 16 satellites for Russian satellite internet infrastructure. Many media outlets are reporting about it. Let me give you details. Probably many members of our community will be interested in this. So Russia launched its first satellites, 16 in total, marking the beginning of the creation of national low orbiter constellations with the potential for global coverage. The batch launch took place on March 23rd at 8:24 p.m. According to Bureau 1440 Telegram channel, the spacecraft separated from the launch vehicle as planned after reaching the reference orbit. They are now under full control of mission control. Engineers will soon test all onboard systems. Once their necessary tests are completed, their spacecrafts will begin moving towards target orbit. And let me tell you, dear friends, that this system is set to become operational for 2027, and by that time, allegedly, there are going to be 300 satellites on orbit. So, sometime in 2027, probably we will have our Russian alternative to US Starlink system, which is good, by the way. This installation will have, I guess, there are some military implications, and also civilian, and there are people all over the Russia probably will have access to this system, and also worldwide, because it's going to be global. It's going to be global eventually. So I think this is important development, by the way. Definitely important development. You might ask what's going on in the zone of special military operation, and well, even though initiative is in Russian hands all along the front line, and I have said about it many times before, looks like due to weather conditions, it's a sort of operational pause now. I guess Russian militaries are waiting ground to harden, because as of now, you can imagine conditions in the fields, conditions on the ground, soft ground is definitely not the best conditions when you might conduct offensive operations. And also, we should keep in mind that there is very little opportunities to hide as of now. From drones, for example, and drones are covering entire front line, and I guess this operational pause might last for a couple of weeks, and once greenery will take over their forestries and other places. By the way, I think Russian militaries will significantly activate their offensive operations. But as of now, and for past at least a couple of weeks, it seems to me, based on reports, that it's sort of a operational pause on the ground. Although I'm not military expert, dear friends, so therefore take my understanding of the situation in the zone of special military operation with a grain of salt, pinch of salt, mountain of salt. You have to be military expert to actually have a good understanding of their situation, and I never pretend to be one. Also, I want to share with you this information that Hungarian foreign minister was wiretapped by EU spies, according to Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban. So Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has ordered an investigation into the alleged wiretapping of the Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó by at least one EU member state. The operation was aided by Hungarian so-called opposition journalists, which is insane, isn't it? Which is insane. Hungary is under such a tremendous pressure. Hungary's current leadership, and I will argue also Hungary's population that stands on traditional values and the principles. Hungary is under tremendous pressure from globalists and all sorts of globalist puppets, from within EU and from outside of EU. And you know perfectly well how tense the relationships between Budapest and Kyiv regime is, for example. But the news itself is quite interesting, isn't it? That Hungary's foreign minister was wiretapped by one of the EU member states. Insanity. Why EU still think? Why countries are not leaving this criminal organization? I don't know. That all it does takes sovereignty of the member states. Why EU is still a thing? Makes no sense. But anyways, let's continue with some other news. And of course, Middle East does make headlines all over the world, and Russia is not exception. Of course, yesterday, once I finished the first live stream, shortly after, media reported about statements of Trump, his post on the Truth Social, in which he claimed that there is some talks with the Iranian side and he's postponing his ultimatum for 5 days. This was quite surprising in some ways, quite surprising statement from Trump. Although even in yesterday's first update, I did mention probability that maybe he will chicken out for whatever reasons, and he did. And speculations began straight away. What stands behind this yet another U-turn of Trump? Most commentators looks like are on a page that this way Trump and his administration try to manipulate with the financial markets, also with their mess with their energy markets. And this is true. These statements of Trump clearly had their effect in this regards. But I think her influence on the financial and energy market was a secondary task for Trump and his administration. Priority task was to create tensions inside Iran, inside different factions, among different factions in Iran. My personal take on that, and I will explain what I think. But first, let me give you details on Trump's statement itself. U.S. Department of War has been ordered to temporarily suspend plans for military strikes on Iranian energy facilities. President Donald Trump announced on Monday following what he claimed were negotiations with Tehran. In a post on a Truth Social, Trump said that the two sides have had a very good and productive conversations over the past 2 days regarding complete and total resolution of hostilities in the Middle East. He stated that based on their tenor and the tone of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations, he have ordered the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, subject to success of their ongoing meetings and discussions. And as I said, I believe this post was published by Trump, and this tsunami of all sorts of speculations initiated first and foremost to create internal tensions among different factions in Iran, because straight after the statement, different so-called media outlets or media personalities began speculating and even dropping the names of Iranian officials that allegedly are engaged in these talks. So my initial instinct, I think, was correct when I think to myself that this is clearly deception operation. This is deception in terms of provoking this conflict there in Iran, possibly. And I receive enough indicators that was the case eventually. This is the post itself of Trump. You can pause the screen video now and read the entire post if you want to. Then after this post, Trump was asked by journalists about some more details. He repeated the claim about talks. He also stated that U.S. would like to take all the enriched uranium from Iran. And when it comes to Strait of Hormuz, another false narrative that is pushed by Western propaganda, he said that control of the Strait of Hormuz will be done together by U.S. and Iran. He implied that in his statement, which is nonsense, obviously. Let me give you these short videos in case you have not heard about these statements, and then let's and then I will give you my take on all of that.
Tomorrow morning, sometime, their time, we were expected to blow up their largest electric generating plants that cost over $10 billion to build. It's a very good one. There was no dearth of money. And one shot, it's gone. It collapses. Why would they want that? So they called. I didn't call. They called. They want to make a deal. And we are very willing to make a deal. It's got to be a good deal. And it's got to be no more wars, no more nuclear weapons. They're not going to have nuclear weapons anymore. They're agreeing to that. Any of that stuff, there's no deal. Tomorrow.
That's the one statement. He claims that it was Iranian side that initiated these talks, which is lie. Everything he says is a lie. Literally, everything this guy says is a lie. I don't know what the hell is wrong with Trump, but at this point, probably there is either no one left on this planet who can take Trump's word seriously, or just very few people. Honestly, man. Honestly. What do you think about it? Would you trust anything that comes out from Trump? I wouldn't, for sure. Also, another statement about this enriched uranium stuff that he called the dust.
No nuclear bomb, no nuclear weapon, not even close to it. Low key on the missiles. We want to see peace in the Middle East. We want the nuclear dust. We're going to want that, and I think we're going to get that.
Uranium.
We've agreed to that. Yeah, we've agreed to that.
You want the enriched uranium before you can end this.
And we want no enrichment, but we also want the enriched uranium. If this happens, it's a great start for Iran to build itself back, and it's everything that we want. And it's also great for Israel, and it's great for the other Middle Eastern countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, all of them, Kuwait and Bahrain in particular. So it's great for all of them.
Dear friends, as I said in my yesterday's second live stream late evening, at least we have to give him a credit for knowing the Gulf monarchies, names of the Gulf monarchies. Probably he was briefed about this monarchy so many times in past several days that he actually memorized all of them, right? But when it comes to topic of enriched uranium itself, well, what we can say, Iranian side was very clear that they might actually consider to transfer enriched uranium to third party in order to achieve a true actual de-escalation. But negotiations were cut short by US because they launched military operation. And now to say that Iran is offering anything and Iran initiated talks and they are agreed that we will take this enriched uranium is a total BS, right? It's just nonsense. It's just nonsense. It was not just Iran, but Russia. Remember, dear friends, I was reporting that Russian Federation offered assistance in terms of this enriched uranium. Russian side was ready to take it, downgrade level of enrichment and transfer then this uranium back to Iran to be used in scientific research, in medical equipment, in nuclear reactors. But yet again, it was US that broke the negotiations and launched a war in middle of it, right? And as of now, as many Iranian officials said, they see no ways to hold the negotiations with the American side because they have no trust. They don't believe US negotiators, understandably so, of course. And let me give you also another short-term video from Trump when he spoke about Strait of Hormuz, another false narrative that was pushed by the Western propaganda, Western public figures, officials, that Iran is keeping Strait of Hormuz closed when this is not true. In reality, Iran is imposing restrictions only on their vessels that are linked to US, Israel, and their allies. Rest of the world can navigate through Hormuz Strait freely whenever they want. All they have to do is communicate with the Iranian side to make sure that things are done properly, right, and safely. That's all Iranian side is saying. And the reason why there is no active navigation through Hormuz Strait is because globalists are using their tools, financial tools, for example, insurance market, Lloyd's of London, to basically deny companies or deny vessels insurance, and without it, they just cannot move anywhere. Most of them, right? Because that's how system is built by the West. But nevertheless, unfortunately, significant number of people, especially in the Western world, actually believe that Iran completely shut down navigation in the Persian Gulf. And yeah, what you cannot do about it, really. I mean, it is hard for alternative media to basically be as effective in terms of sharing actual information as unfortunately Western propaganda outlets are in terms of misleading the public, because their infrastructure, their capabilities are on a different level, right? Alternative media is not there yet, and unfortunately, even in alternative media, not that many channels are actually pointing attention of the public on the Lloyds of London, on the globalists and globalist financial institutions that being weaponized to keep Strait of Hormuz closed. I don't know why, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And let me give you this short video of Trump about exactly that topic.
Who's going to be in control of that?
That'll be opened very soon if this works.
How soon? And who's in control of it? Will Iran still be able to control the flow of oil?
Be jointly controlled.
By who?
Maybe me. Maybe me.
You want the United States to be in
Me
control
and
of
the Ayatollah, whoever the Ayatollah is, whoever the next Ayatollah. Look, and there'll also be a form of a very serious form of a regime change. Now, in all fairness, everybody's been killed from the regime. They're really starting off. There's automatically a regime change. But we're dealing with some people that I find to be very reasonable, very solid. The people within know who they are. They're very respected. And maybe one of them will be exactly what we're looking for. Look at Venezuela, how well that's working out. We are doing so well in Venezuela with oil and with the relationship between the president-elect and us. And maybe we find somebody like that in Iran.
You see, clearly, I think Trump himself basically giving us an indicator that his post and all this push of yet another false narrative, deception operation, first and foremost, tasked to create some tensions inside Iran between different factions. Way he spoke that they know who they are, and we are talking with some people, and you see Venezuela how well it worked out. What kind of talk is that? What's going on? And also, Western world is still pushes this narrative that, well, whoever gonna be Ayatollah, there is already a name. We know who Ayatollah, supreme leader of Iran is. It's Muqtada Khamenei, right? And if he is not in the public every day because he has reasons to not be in the public every day, he's not gonna give opportunity to Israelis and U.S. Intelligence and militaries to take him out too, and then use this to further destabilize the situation in Iran and throughout the region. So it is very wise decision to staying in shadows, at least for time being. There is no necessity for him to be in the public and on a TV screen every day. There is no need for that, absolutely. But anyways, I think my initial reading of their situation in regards to this topic of prolonged or postponed ultimatum and alleged talks with the Iranian side is a deception operation, nothing serious, just a freaking deception operation. And in the confirmation of this take, well, soon after original Trump's post on True Social, this Western so-called media outlets and media personalities began dropping the names of Iranian officials, exactly with the purpose to create tensions inside Iran, push yet another false narrative and create tensions inside Iran. And well, these names are, by the way, Abbas Araghchi, for example, that was mentioned by Barak Ravid, asset of Mossad, Israeli Mossad, and US CIA, right? That pretends to be journalist of Axios. And he wrote, this personality wrote on his social page, and I'm reading, quoting now, Turkey, Egypt, and Pakistan have been passing messages between the US and Iran over the past 2 days in an effort to de-escalate. US source said about this to Ravid. Then he goes to Israeli source. Senior officials from three countries held separate talks with the White House envoy Steve Witkoff and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. The mediation is ongoing and making progress. There are discussions about ending the war and resolving all outstanding issues. We hope to have answers soon. Another alleged source. These are all sources that never named, right? But he dropped Abbas Araghchi, name of Abbas Araghchi, who is allegedly is in indirect, at least indirect talks with Steve Witkoff, which truly makes no sense as of now. And also Barak Ravid went to further push this false narrative and come up with another poster in which he claimed that J.D. Vance might lead U.S. delegation in a possible U.S.-Iran negotiations in Islamabad, capital of Pakistan. And I give you quotes from Barak Ravid again. Israeli official, you tell me how trustworthy source, if it even exists, can be Israeli official. But that's what Ravid is referring to. An Israeli official stated that negotiations are underway for a meeting of Syrian, Iranian, and American officials in Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan, which will take place at the end of this week. And the end of this week. Nonsense, not happening. Total nonsense. Senior Israeli official, another one, I guess, also said to Ravid, as a part of negotiations on the summit in Pakistan, the possibility of U.S. Vice President Vance become their senior U.S. representative is being considered. And then another Israeli official also told Barak Ravid, or maybe these are same officials, or maybe Barak Ravid just made this story up. I mean, it's anybody's guess. But he wrote, Israel knew that several countries were making mediation efforts to start negotiations between Iran and US, but was surprised by Trump's words that these contacts are progressing and that apparently agreements on 15 points have been reached. Okay. Does it looks like serious stuff? Honestly, no. It's a pure deception. It's a pure deception that cannot be taken seriously, of course. And also Western propaganda, in this particular case, Israeli propaganda, went even further than that. And for example, Ynet, so-called media outlet, reported that United States plans to declare the end of the conflict with Iran on April of 9. So they are not just lying to public about talks that never happened, but they are coming up with this yet another, even bigger nonsense that allegedly US already set up the date when war gonna end. What's going on, man? For whom they are pushing these false narratives? Who's gonna take this and believe in this? I don't know, but this is insanity. And another personality from Iranian officials that was also named is Parliament Speaker Ghalibaf. And we have reports that another Israeli media, so-called media outlet, Jerusalem Post, shared the information that allegedly Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf is holding talks with the United States. Really? Lies. And you know why? Galibaf himself responded on these claims, and he said, number one, Iranian people demand complete and remorseful punishment of the aggressors. All Iranian officials stand firmly behind the supreme leader and the people until this goal is achieved. So this person, maybe Western propaganda wants to present him as some sort of rebellion or head of resistance inside the Iranian elites, but he said it clearly that all Iranian officials, government, everyone else stands firmly behind the supreme leader. There is no internal confrontation there that can threaten unity of the country and the people. And second point he made is that no negotiations have been held with the US, and fake news is used to manipulate the financial and oil markets and escape the quagmire in which US and Israel are trapped. And yes, influence on financial and oil markets, energy markets, is definitely, I think, a secondary task for this new wave of deception that is coming from White House and the collective West, generally speaking. But first task, priority task for them is clearly to generate mistrust, to then generate tensions inside Iran between different factions. Officials to begin questioning who they can trust. And the Speaker of Iranian Parliament, by the way, is not a foreign minister, and it does not matter what even if he was engaged, let's say, in some indirect or direct talks with anybody from Israel or the US, it does not matter. He makes no policies, he makes no decisions on the policies. He is just the Speaker of the Parliament, period. His authorities are limited, and he cannot speak on behalf of all of Iran. Supreme leader can, foreign minister can, president can, but head of parliament, really. And that's in case if this personality, Galibaf, was actually engaged in a talks with anybody. And I don't believe he was. But nevertheless, there is a hierarchy, isn't it? In every country, there is an institutional hierarchy. Who is number one, who is the second, third, and so on, right? And yes, Speaker of the Parliament, definitely in high-ranking official, no doubts about that. But when it comes to actual influence on the foreign policy decisions, it's a supreme leader first and foremost. And Iran's supreme leader, Muqtada Khamenei, was very clear in his first public statements, and he said nothing about backing down now and giving and agree on some concessions with the US or something like that. No, right? And it was not just Galibaf that made statements and debunk this false narrative that is pushed by the West, but Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi did the same. There is no dialogue between Tehran and Washington. Iran's foreign ministry stated, according to Mehr News. Period. There is nothing to discuss, really. Maybe Steve Witkoff sent a message to Abbas Araghchi. Maybe. That does not mean that Iranian side is engaged in talks. Maybe Abbas Araghchi or any other official, Galibaf or whomever, after receiving some message with the greetings and maybe some questions, maybe there was some answer in response. Maybe nothing, but maybe was some answer. That does not mean that there is negotiations, because first and foremost, based on Iranian constitution, number one authority in the country is a supreme leader. And without his agreement, there can be no policy implementations. in any direction. And we should keep in mind, dear friends, that the new supreme leader of Iran, when he was young, he was 17, 18, when he volunteered on the front when Iraq was waging war of aggression against Iran with support of US. And since that young age, supreme leader established very close ties to IRGC, to security institutions, to other security institutions in Iran. And he is most powerful individual in Iran, not just because of his position as a supreme leader, but because of his life and his actual real connections. And support, obviously. And support. He is a religious figure. Let's not forget about it. He is a leader of Shiite Muslims in Iran. And that's on its own gives him tremendous influence and power, obviously, right? Especially in a religious society. And this is true about every country, not just a Muslim country, but also a Christian country. Religious leaders do have a very significant influence, absolutely. So that's what it is, dear friends. This is a deception, not to be taken seriously. If Abbas Araghchi, for example, had any conversations with anybody, that was the Russian foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, and we have statements about it, confirmed that on March 23rd, yesterday, foreign minister of Russia, Sergei Lavrov, and the foreign minister of Iran, Abbas Araghchi, held their phone conversation. They discussed the situation in and around Iran. These criminal actions of US and Israel were condemned, this unprovoked war that they are waging, and the Iranian foreign minister thanked Russian side for political and all the other assistance, including humanitarian assistance. Okay. When Iranians are engaged in talks, they are not shying away to make it clear, right? So that's where things stand. And also, dear friends, also there is a third point that maybe is playing out in regards to this deception operation that Trump personally launched and then was supported by Western propaganda. And the third one is that, well, we all know that US has sent its militaries towards the Middle East. I have reported about it on numerous occasions in my previous updates, correct? And, well, those militaries going to arrive in a region in the Middle East towards the end of this week, on 27th, allegedly on 27th of March. And we should keep in mind that this deception operation also can be an attempt to buy some time before US ground forces will arrive in the region. It would not change really much, but that probably also was taken in account while Trump and his administration was coming up with this yet another deception that they launch. And even though, by the way, in his statement, Trump claimed that there will be no attacks on Iranian energy infrastructure, this is another lie that coming from US president, because we have reports today that gas management facility and the pressure reduction station was attacked in Isfahan, and in Hormashah power station, gas pipeline also was targeted. At least two energy facilities was targeted past night by US-Israeli terrorist coalition, genocidal coalition. So Trump lied even in his post. That is a truly lie, complete lie, right? He even lied about attacks on energy infrastructure because attacks are happening. So it's a mess. It's a mess. What can I tell you, friends? It's a freaking mess, right? US, Western world, rapidly descending towards some freaking dark place, and as this descent accelerates, unfortunately, entire world is getting closer and closer to some very critical point, because behavior of the Western ruling class is becoming more and more irrational. And this is a danger, especially if you keep in mind that we are talking about military and the nuclear superpower in case of US, for example. It's dangerous. When it comes to Europe, we should keep in mind that at least there is two countries there, UK and France, that also have nuclear weapons. And unfortunately, European globalists and globalist control regimes in Europe still have some quite significant influence in different areas in this world, and can use this influence for destructive means, for destruction. That's what they do. So Trump lied about postponing attacks on Iranian energy infrastructure. Energy infrastructure is being targeted. Since the beginning of this conflict, there was not a single day when US-Israeli terrorist genocidal coalition didn't target energy infrastructure on Iranian territory. Not a single day. And other civilian infrastructure too. But you're not going to learn about this from Western MSM. They wouldn't tell you this. Overall, over 40 energy assets already been severely damaged since the beginning of this war of choice that US and Israel launched. And you know, dear friends, Iran issued a published a list of vital infrastructure, vital energy, and other infrastructure throughout the region that will be targeted by Iranian side if US and Israel will go ahead with their massive attacks on Iran's civilian infrastructure, energy infrastructure, and the other. And I shared information about it, of course, and hopefully, I can only hope that no matter what, how things gonna continue, hopefully this vital infrastructure would not be targeted by Iran, at least before Gulf monarchies will join openly this war against their Islamic republics. Once they will join this war openly, then Iran will not really have any options but to retaliate as hard as possible, right? But until then, in order not to give globalists and their Zionist allies and the neocon allies upper hand to further push these family dictatorships in the Gulf to enter the war, right, against Iran, in order to not give Western ruling class upper hand, Iran should exercise restraint. But there is a high probability that at some point they will have to retaliate hard on all vital infrastructure throughout the region as a retaliation for attacks on Iran's infrastructure. And also, when it comes to this topic of energy infrastructure, let me share with you quite interesting information, which could be coincidence, by the way, or maybe not, I don't know, but reports are that second oil refinery experienced some emergency in US in the past 2 weeks. Today, there are reports all over the place, and right now you can see a screenshot about a massive fire and smoke that is happening in one of their oil refineries in Texas that experienced emergency a few hours ago, basically. And I don't know, maybe this is just a coincidence, or maybe there are some people in the US that on their own or whatever ways, but are deciding that US also has to pay price on its own territory for crimes that US political leadership, US militaries are committing against humanity in the Middle East. And there may be some people are taking some actions because 2 refineries in 2 weeks, interesting. Maybe coincidence, maybe not. And it only takes one FPV drone with some explosive to fly over their energy infrastructure, strike some stuff, and that's it. $500 and their multi-billion-dollar complex is out of action, right? So anything is possible. And as I said, dear friends, one of the reasons, not the main reason, possibly, but secondary task, one of the secondary tasks of this deception operation that Trump personally launched yesterday and then was supported by all the propaganda infrastructure of the West, could be that they want to buy some time. Because as I already mentioned, first units of expeditionary force that US is sending towards the Middle East will arrive there for March 27, exactly before this extended their ultimatum of Trump expires. Also interesting, possibly coincidence, if we can believe that this is a coincidence. So thousands of US Marines are expected to arrive in the Middle East on March 27th. 3 sources told the Wall Street Journal the Marine deployment coincidence with their deadline for US President Donald Trump's ultimatum to Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz. Newspaper writes, and as I said many times before, by the way, this ultimatum itself is a nonsense because Iran cannot open something that it did not close. Iran has no influence over the Lloyds of London, over that insurance market. So what Iran gonna do? What? They said, we are in a war, and the vessels that are linked to our enemies will be targeted if they try to pass through Hormuz, to Strait of Hormuz. But the rest of the world can navigate freely. And the only reason this is not happening in a mass, at least, some vessels still are moving in and out, but main reason why there is a very little shipping at the moment is because of the globalists and their decision to use their financial tools, including Lloyds of London, to block commercial companies or shipping companies from navigating through this strait because they are not giving them insurance. So from the beginning, this ultimatum of Trump was freaking nonsense, right? Just a nonsense. So on 27th of March, initial units, forward units of these expeditionary forces will arrive in the Middle East, and it's not going to be the one. That's a Tripoli, by the way. These forces will arrive on Tripoli. So according to officials, the Japan-based amphibious assault ship USS Tripoli, amphibious dock ship USS New Orleans, and approximately 2,200 sailors will join U.S. Central Command responsible for American forces in the Middle East. Okay, by the way, but another 3 vessels are on the way too. Tripoli gonna be first one, but USS Boxer, USS Portland, and USS Comstock is also moving towards the Middle East with their additional thousands and thousands of sailors and Marines. And we should keep in mind when this report says that it's a 2,200 sailors, it's actually sailors among this expeditionary corps. Actual sailors, not stormtroopers, not Marines that gonna storm beaches or be engaged in ground operations. When it comes to actual stormtroopers, let's call them that, number can be around battalion, maybe around battalion, by the way. 400 to 600 military personnel. That's about it, right? So 4 assault or amphibious assault ships are directed towards the Middle East, and overall number of these assault troops, actual troops that will be capable of conducting some ground operations, probably will be around 2.5 thousand. Maybe US can bring in some more ground forces from bases all over the Middle East and increase this number up to potentially 4 or 5,000, maybe even 10,000. I don't know exact number of troops that US has, ground forces, I mean stormtroopers, let's call them that they have throughout the Middle East, but it's in the thousands anyways, right? It's in the thousands. And well, this Saturday, Sunday, probably we should expect initial ground operations to begun. Initial ground operations to begun. And well, even though Western propaganda is pushing speculations that US militaries might try to take control over this Khark Island, which is in the end, towards the end of the Persian Gulf, right? It's a strategical island, yes, for energy infrastructure of Iran, but Iran will find ways to export oil, even if this island somehow is being captured by US militaries. But I think this is a deception. I said it many times before that all these talks about Khark Island probably is a freaking deception, because occupying Khark Island neither from military standpoint, neither from any other standpoint that I can think of, makes any freaking sense right now, because US troops on that island gonna be sitting ducks. So makes no sense, right? I spoke about it many times before. So what they can do, by the way, as I mentioned in my previous updates, is to try and establish control, to establish bridgehead, basically, on most southeastern coast of Iran, in Oman, Strait, Oman Gulf of Oman, sorry, right? Somewhere here. And it was interesting that yesterday I saw a video, latest video of History Legends channel. Many of you are familiar, I think. And he also made a video about developments in the Middle East. And he is also skeptical that Khark Island will be priority target of US militaries. Makes no sense. He spoke about probability that this big island will be occupied by, could be one of the tasks of these expeditionary forces, but he was skeptical that they will take on this island, because first of all, it's a massive island with a big population, and it's even closer to coastal line of Iran that Khark Island is. So US troops gonna be sitting ducks there too. And only more or less logical, direction where US troops might try to establish beachhead is exactly the area that I mentioned there many times in my previous updates, most southeastern part of Iranian coast. And it happened that this area is actually part of Iran where predominantly Baluchi minority lives. And I have mentioned Baluchis many times in my programs, when I was talking about that US might try to deploy proxies inside Iran. I was talking about Kurdish forces, and I was talking about Baluchi forces that are every now and then are actually committing some terrorist attacks on Iranian territory. And as of now, Baluchis were quiet. But US has links with the Baluchis for sure, and they can try to use them as a tool against Iran. Probably they will fail, but they're gonna try it. And yes, this is approximately the area. Which might be the target for expeditionary corp of US that will arrive in a region this Friday. Forward units of. Will this be a success story for US? No, no. Of course, they can launch amphibious operation, establish bridgehead in this area, and at least if they manage to establish good contacts with the local Belugis, maybe they will, they will feel little more safe. But we should keep in mind that mountain range is not far away from the coast, right? Not far away. This area can be targeted with the drones, with the missiles, in some cases with their FPV drones also. And I'm quite sure, by the way, when it comes to Belugis, it's not just the US and Israel that have some connections with all sorts of different groups there, or the organizations, terrorist ones and otherwise, but also India. Also India has significant contacts with them, right? And I believe behind the scenes, Indian secret services that are one of the most powerful organizations in this world will incentivize their assets to stay out of this war. And US militaries most likely eventually will end up in a trap. If they will land here, they're gonna end up in a trap. It might turn out to be freaking disaster, because if we understand that probably this is the direction in which US will try to establish bridgehead, I mean, Iranian militaries probably know that much better than us, isn't it? And they are ready. They are preparing. And that's what I was saying in my previous updates, by the way. It is a betrayal of US troops on behalf of US citizens that know better. All this Iranian story, all this aggression is a crime that US is committing. And they know that US citizens don't have to die in this war against country that never posed no threat for US. And despite this knowledge, unfortunately, majority of the US public decided to just ignore the situation. There is no protests, no demonstrations, no demands to stop this bloody insanity, nothing. And I think this is a betrayal on behalf of US society of their own militaries. Because, well, we will find out soon. Why is that? Because US military is going to be slaughtered on Iranian soil. Slaughtered. It's going to turn into freaking slaughterhouse for them. Anyways, let's continue with some other news, by the way. And USS Gerald Ford aircraft carrier was stationed in the Red Sea, experienced some significant issues on the border. There was issues with the sewage system even before aircraft carrier get to Red Sea. Rumors are that it was a sabotage of their sailors. Then once in the Red Sea, there was a massive fire on the aircraft carrier in such a scale that allegedly 600 Marines are sleeping on the floors now and on the tables and stuff like that. And now we have this report that aircraft carrier USS Gerald Ford has left the area of US military operation and docked on their island of Crete in the Mediterranean Sea. Tasnim news agency, Tasnim media outlet reported about it, and some pictures are also shared there. I don't know if these are new pictures or the old pictures, but it well might be the case that this aircraft carrier, USS Gerald Ford, left the zone of theater of operations because it was no longer capable of providing any military assistance to this aggression, right, to US and Israel in this crime that they are committing against humanity. Probably it will, if true, and it's already around the crater, after some repairs, probably this aircraft carrier will go for US. I guess that's my guess, and maybe US will bring in some further some other aircraft carrier if they have a operational one right now. And because US didn't bring another one yet, I have some doubts that US have operational additional aircraft carrier. On the papers, they have 10 or 11 of them, but how many of them are actually operational? Not that many, as we can see there. Only question I have, by the way, how come that this aircraft carrier managed to bypass straight off this Suez Channel from Red Sea to Mediterranean and was not attacked? How this can be? I don't know, man. This is beyond my understanding. I cannot believe that Iranian security services have no assets in Egypt exactly for this case. That if there is a war and the military asset of enemy is passing through Strait to take action and dealt as much damage to this military asset as possible. Why, man? What's going on, right? I just cannot wrap my mind around this nonsense. That these military vessels of US and other countries that are engaged in this war against Iran are freely managing to go in and out of this freaking Suez Channel. It's insanity, man. Insanity, right? And it would take only, I don't know, 10, 15 FPV drones, 20 FPV drones, wire-guided or radio-guided, wire-guided, or just to be on the safe side because they cannot be jammed. And you can operate them from 40 kilometers away. So there's plenty of places where you can just sit and operate with these drones and target all these military assets, right? US aircraft carrier and all the support vessels with dozens of drones. And to take out aircraft carrier from action, it only takes literally a couple of them, right? You strike island of the aircraft carrier, you strike deck of the aircraft carrier, landing area and takeoff area. And it will take many, many, many months, if not the years, before US will manage to bring this aircraft carrier into service. Or any other vessel, for that matter, right? Any other military vessel. So I don't know, man. Maybe this is not really accurate information, and Gerald Ford is still in the Red Sea. In that case, there is a probability that once they will try to pass through Suez Channel, they will be targeted, this strike group. But if it's already in the Mediterranean next to Crete Island, then yeah, that's a failure on behalf of Iranian security services. How on earth they can allow these targets to move around this freely, man, when you have opportunity to take them out? I don't know. Anyways, I already mentioned, by the way, that even before this war started, I was saying that globalists and neocons, Western ruling class and their Zionist allies, they're gonna try to use their proxies against Iran. That is first and foremost Kurdish armed groups and Baluchi armed groups, and also they will try to provoke a war between Gulf monarchies and Iran, right? And as of now, they failed in this. But it does not mean that they are not continuing to push for that, isn't it? Because end goal in regards to Middle Eastern chapter of their strategy for their longer-standing strategy focused on Western domination and destruction of only competitors that they have on the geopolitical scale, China and Russia. So Middle Eastern chapter in this strategy is focused basically on keeping this region cut off from global energy sector, global markets, right? That's their end goal. And we should keep in mind that 80% of energy from region goes for global south, not for West, but for global south. This is also important. And also, and to achieve this, I was saying from the beginning that Western ruling class will try to destroy whatever they can destroy, literally whatever they can destroy in Iran, to erase any elements of the statehood there, any elements of the state system, and also any elements that are any infrastructure that provides reasonably high quality life for the people. And that means strikes on schools, hospitals, farms, shopping malls, energy infrastructure, sewage infrastructure, water supply infrastructure, everything. And that's exactly what US and Israel is doing. They are striking literally everything in order to destroy as much as they can destroy, to create a miserable situation for ordinary Iranians, so much so to force them then to fight for survival among each other, right? Western ruling class wants to provoke war on ethnic and sectarian lines. I spoke about this many times, way before US and Israel even launched this war. And they are pushing in this direction. And they want also to provoke a war between Iran and these Gulf monarchies, because that would be also a war on ethnic and sectarian lines, of course. And as of now, they failed in this. But unfortunately, reports are coming in that maybe soon some Gulf monarchies, or maybe all Gulf monarchies, will actually join this war, which is going to be basically end of those monarchies. They're not going to survive this war, but unfortunately, this will be a win for globalists, neocons, and their Zionist allies, because if Gulf monarchies are also engaged in a war, then most likely, Iran will take a real strike, and this on these countries, and this time around, not just on U.S. military assets there, but on local assets, right? On assets, military, and their other assets of monarchies themselves. And that includes energy infrastructure, that includes all other vital infrastructure, including water desalination plants. And if that happens, then you can argue Gulf monarchies are dead at that point, because in many cases, 70, 80, 90% of drinking water in these Gulf monarchies are coming from desalination plants. And I remind you, friends, that Western ruling class already committed a crime of denying people drinking water when they targeted their water desalination plant in Iran. So no one can say that, well, Iran launched unprovoked attack on water desalination plants in the Gulf monarchies. No, Iranian water supply assets are targeted on daily basis, and the US and Israel are able to do so while using airspace, and in many cases ground, of these Gulf monarchies. So Iran will feel itself to be in a legal frame to retaliate in any way, shape, or form they can, and on all their assets in these Gulf monarchies that Iran itself lost due to hostility. But the region eventually will lose, world will lose, but globalists and their neocons, Western ruling class, and their Zionist allies, they will feel good if this will happen, because in that case, Middle East will be cut off, Middle Eastern resources, let's say, will be cut off from global economy for years and years to come, right? And globalists will easily manage to force China to increase its dependence on Russian energy up to critical level. And that's why I'm saying we cannot, neither us, Moscow, Russia, neither China can allow Western ruling class to succeed in that. But to deter Western, we have to go for a nuclear standoff. This is the only way we can deter Western ruling class. And as of now, there is no such a standoff, right? Neither Moscow, neither Beijing did not make it clear that further continuation of this aggression against Iran will trigger involvement of both these countries, Russia and China. And yet again, without actual threat that Western ruling class will feel, they're not going to de-escalate. They're not going to de-escalate. And on this matter, we have updates, by the way. Many media outlets are reporting now, including Wall Street Journal, that Saudi Arabia has quietly allowed U.S. forces to use King Fahd air base for strikes on Iran, direct reversal of Riyadh's pre-war position. Crown Prince MBS is now described as a close to formal decision to join the fight openly, to join this war openly, and that will be a fatal mistake on behalf of Saudi Arabia, because this monarchy not going to survive, neither any other in the region. They will enter this war openly against Iran, will be the beginning of the end for them. For all of them, by the way. Saudi Arabia is the most powerful among Gulf monarchies, but it's a paper tiger compared to Iran. And I don't even want to talk about others, man. UAE is a freaking joker. Qatar is a freaking joke, by the way. Kuwait is a joke. Bahrain is a joke. These are not real countries, man. These are entities that were created by Anglo-Saxons, right? And are ruled by Anglo-Saxons indirectly through their puppets. That's how it is, right? And I think only reason, or one of the reasons why Gulf monarchies, at least as of now, are staying out of this war, at least officially, because of the diplomacy from Russian side and American side. But maybe this diplomacy is not gonna be enough, or maybe Western ruling class will force them anyways to enter this war. And it seems like, according to Wall Street Journal, they are close to do exactly that. We will see. We will see, by the way. In any ways, I don't expect de-escalation to happen, actual de-escalation to happen in this war and in the Middle East, unless either together, Moscow and Beijing, or one of those, either Moscow or Beijing will make a stand and will go ahead with even nuclear standoff with the West to deter Western ruling class from further escalation. If this is not happening, then unfortunately this situation will only deteriorate. And globally is going to win. All of us going to lose, but globally is going to win because they will manage to keep this region cut off from the rest of the world. That's what they want, man. That's exactly what they want. And as of now, they are actually achieving their goal, which is unfortunate. But yeah, that's where we are. Vzglyad newspaper is also reporting that UK announced deployment of air defense systems in Bahrain and Kuwait. Okay, I mean, easy if anybody cares, man, what UK gonna do or not gonna do. When it comes to UK, the only question I have personally is why we didn't demilitarize this country and why we didn't denuclearize this monarchy, another one. That's the only question I have personally. UK should not have nuclear weapons, and UK should be punished for all the crimes that they committed against Russian citizens and the Russian Federation. And by UK, I mean British aristocracy, British ruling class, basically, right? British intelligence community and British militaries. They all should be punished massively for crimes that they committed against Russian citizens and the Russian Federation. And I don't understand why this did not happen yet. And same goes for France. Nothing against ordinary people, either in UK or in France. I know they have nothing to do with all the crimes that their countries are committing against us, but we cannot leave these crimes unanswered. We just cannot, right? And so I think intelligence community of UK and France, militaries of UK and France, and local aristocracies or ruling class is a legit target and should be eliminated. And will be eliminated, hopefully. Other than that, I truly don't care what they're gonna do, man. UK is a joke, isn't it? It's a joke, man. That pretends to be important entity on a geopolitical scale. Same goes for France. It's a freaking joke, man. That pretends to be important, while it is not. Eat your freaking frogs, French elites, and just stay away from geopolitics. Take care of your freaking self. Anyways, meanwhile, strikes continue, of course, and we have this report that from Vzgliad that Iran struck Israel's Tel Nov air base. Also, reports are coming in about Iranian strikes on U.S. bases throughout the Middle East. For example, Ali Al Salem base, Al Karj base, Al Dafra base, and the list goes on and on. War continues, and unfortunately will only escalate if either Russia or China or both together will not make her stand and, if necessary, nuclear stand and force Western ruling class to de-escalate. That's where we are, and that's about it for today's first live stream, dear friends. That's about it for today's first live stream. Hopefully you find it informative and useful. I'm checking now Rumble. There was no super chat there to respond. Anna didn't drop no screenshots. So therefore, probably there was nothing also through Boosty or the PayPal, and that means this is it for now. Depends on day how it goes news-wise. If there is many important developments, of course, I will launch in that case a second live stream at 9 p.m. this evening. If there is no technical issues too, by the way, which does occur time to time. Until then, right? In case you want to support, by the way, under this video in the description box, there is all the links. And let me just remind you before I go that once the moment I end this live stream, videos of this live stream will be unlisted on YouTube and Rumble, and original links to open these videos will be published on my Patreon and Boosty pages. We'll be grateful if you will join our community, either on a Patreon or on a Boosty. I dropped a link to my Patreon in a chat in YouTube right now, and I will do the same in Rumble chatter, in case you are interested, by the way. And so, yes, this is it for now. Have a wonderful day and take care. Bye.